All right, let's do this. But first I need to turn down the AC because otherwise I will freeze. I needed to wake up, but like not that much. Do you guys ever do that? Where it's the weekend and you're feeling kind of tired at like 3 o'clock and you're like, oh, if I have a nap, I'm going to feel so much better for the rest of the evening. And then you have a nap and you wake up and you're like, what year is it? That was me. So then I'm like, ugh. So anyway, here I am. We're drinking water. We're having iced coffee, which is like half calf. I don't normally have coffee this late, but it's warm and I need to wake up. So let's get into it, because today we are talking about something super exciting, which is me recapping where we are at in our fertility journey to date. So I have put out my first video on this, which was a video that I recorded over the course of a year. I didn't know it would be over the course of a year. I hoped to be over the course of a few months and then it'd be good news to share, but it ended up being a year of us being unable to get pregnant. So we are now in year 2. And for those who are wanting to come along on this journey with us, and maybe you have similar things going on, or you just want to kind of understand how this journey can look, I wanted to explain a bit about our specific circumstances, because my journey, especially starting as like a 27-year-old woman, is going to look very different, most likely, to if someone is starting this journey at 37, for example. So let me give you the details of that and kind of where we've been and the different factors that we are dealing with. And hopefully at the end of this, you decide that you would like to come along for the rest of the journey with us and be sleepy, but still do the thing with the half calf coffee. I don't buy half calf beans. I have 2 different kinds of beans and I like put them both in the top of the thingy, you know, the thingy, that thing, that one. Alrighty, so starting out, when we started this journey, I was 27, my husband was 32. We are now 28 and 33 respectively. We didn't switch ages. When I was younger, prior to being on any kind of contraceptive birth control, would have 35-ish day cycles, and I would bleed like a decent amount, not like crazy amounts, but I would bleed like moderately to a lot for like a week, and then with spotting a couple of days at the end of that. It's a funny thing though, in terms of the amount that you bleed. I was chatting with a bleeding specialist, and I'll get into this from contraceptives wise, but anyway, he was saying that a lot of the time women don't realize how abnormal their bleeding actually is, because they will have like a lot of bleeding and then they'll go to their mum or their sister who genetically is having very similar things and say, oh, is this normal? And they're like, yeah, it's normal, that's what I have. They're like, okay, when it's not. So pro tip, if you do feel like it's abnormal, please do look up what the actual scientific definition of normal is and have a gives us a gaze at whether that is like what you're experiencing or whether you're experiencing something outside of that. So anyway, I don't know if that was heavy or sort of normal-ish. It was maybe a bit heavy, but anyway. So then I was on the combined pill for probably like 5-ish years, and that was fine. I would run the packs together so that I wouldn't have to have my period every month, just because it was a pain, and the period that you get on the combined pill isn't actually your period anyway. Again, look into that if you're interested, but it was basically the Vatican wanting that women should be having, wanting women to still have some kind of bleeding every month, because they didn't think it was safe otherwise. Anyway, I won't go into that too much, because as someone who hasn't regularly had their period for a long time because of contraceptives on purpose, I don't want to comment on that since I'm now struggling to get pregnant. I don't want to scare anyone, but I also can't say that nothing has thrown anything off, so whatever. But that is how it was. Then generally the advice at the time was like, oh, you should try going to something like more permanent. Basically them trying to say like, oh, we don't want you to forget one tablet one day and then end up pregnant. So I was like, icky. So I didn't want the options of getting stuff implanted at that point. I was kind of freaked out by that. So I went for Depo-Provera, which is the injection that you get every 3 months. That was a bad idea for me. I'm not sure how long I was actually on it. That time's a bit of a blur and a bit of a mess. But I do remember that the last time I had it, I was lightly bleeding for 11 of the 12 weeks. Just did not vibe with me. Also gave me PMDD, premenstrual dysphoria disorder, which is basically like hormonally, from the injection, hormonally induced depression. It was bad. I think because it kind of came on like that, I had the hindsight of knowing like, this isn't how I should be feeling. I'm gonna power through this, even though it's really horrible, because this is just because of this injection. It's gonna get better as it kind of wears off over time. So yeah, I was on that for a few years. No, sorry, for less than a year. Less than a year. And then I got the Mirena IUD, and that was excellent. So with that, I had basically no period, which was very, very convenient. Didn't get pregnant on it, of course. And it was just really great knowing that I was not going to randomly end up pregnant at a time that I was not ready for that, did not want that. So I had that for 5 years, and then had that changed, and then had it for a couple of years. And then it was October, 2 years ago. So sort of 16 months ago-ish, that we first started talking to the doctor about trying to have a kid. So that was the history up till there. My husband, nothing of note. I'm like, what could happen for guys? And then I'm thinking about that story of that one crazy dude who then went on a killing spree, who'd like tried to climb over barbed wire and lost a testicle or something. My husband did not do that. So there you go, that's his history up till there. Oh, I suppose it's also good to say, so neither of us have smoked. We both like drank a decent amount when we were younger, but not like to the point of, I would say, abusing alcohol, but definitely to the point of like binge drinking. But we haven't been drinking at that level for years and years. No history of smoking. For him, no history of any other drugs. For me, very little history of any other drugs. So yeah, pretty clean on that front, compared to, you know, the average person. So that's good. So coming to the October before I got my IUD out in February, went to my doctor to tell her that that's what I wanted to do, and just checked what I would need to do in advance. And so she sent me for some routine blood tests to just check that everything looked all fine, that I didn't have hepatitis. I can't remember what all of them were, but there was the no hepatitis one. There was some general blood stuff. There was also iron. So all of that came back good, except the iron was low, and I've had that sporadically. Oh, I should mention that actually, diet. So I said about how we don't smoke, don't really do drugs, drink not so much now, did drink more in the past, from a diet point of view. So my husband is someone who has always been very slim. He was, according to the BMI scale, clinically underweight when I met him, but that's just because he was a runner. He doesn't run so much now that I fed him up. But he was like, he's like 6 foot and was 60 kilos. So he's very light, and he's just built very slim, you know. And had been vegan when I met him for like 5 years. 5 years. Prior to that, his diet was pretty crap. Being vegan, he kind of had to have a better diet, but he's one of these guys who can just kind of eat whatever and he thrives. I'm more picky. He can kind of live on his breakfast, which has got oats and porridge and some banana and some coconut yogurt and nuts and seeds for breakfast, and then he can have beans on toast with some barbecue sauce for lunch, and then he can just like chuck himself together like a green curry with tofu and some veggies on rice for dinner, and he's like good to go, happy. He's totally fine. So that was his diet. for a while. I was going to say, that's mostly his diet up till now, and he is fully vegan. When he did do his bloods as well, I think it was a couple of months after me, his stuff came back all fine as well. For me, on a fully vegan diet, because I had been vegan for a year when I was like 20, 21, my iron levels were too low. Even though, like I said, I wasn't getting my period at the time, it just wasn't right for my body. So I am, at the time that I got this blood testing done, I was still like 95% vegan, but then I was supplementing with iron tablets. Within a few months there, for the purposes of trying to get more protein into my diet, as per working with my registered dietitian, I was adding in eggs again and high protein yogurt and regular cheese. I hadn't had regular cheese in a long time. I basically just had vegan cheese, so that was exciting. It was hard work giving it up, and then I was like, oh, I can just have it again. Okay. Yeah, so that has been sort of where the diet was at, so for the past however long, and then early on in this process, that's where things have been at. By the way, my husband is no longer 60 kilos. He has definitely put on weight. He is now in the normal, healthy range of weight, which is good. So coming back around to at the beginning of this process, I was on iron tablets. Josh wasn't on anything. And then also in New Zealand, it's recommended that you take folate prior to and then during the first, I don't know, I think it's the whole pregnancy that you're on folate. Anyway, for me, just trying to get pregnant initially, on folate daily, 800 milligrams, or is it micrograms? I'll have a look at it and I'll tell you which one it is, but standard dosage here. And then I was also given iodine tablets for like immediately when I got a positive test to start taking that as well. So that was basically it. So we started out in February last year, basically got my IUD out, and then we were like, cool, let's do it. When you're 27, you definitely think that you're just going to get pregnant like that, because also that's what sex ed teaches you in school. I know that a lot of my audience is American, and so a lot of you would have probably received like abstinence only education or abstinence only plus like, here's the basic biology of it. I know this because when I was 15, I want to say, the age of consent in New Zealand is 16, by the way. So when I was 15, so before I could even be doing this, I was like, I am going to look up sex education around the world and cite all the studies that show that abstinence only education is really bad. And I'm going to do my speech on that for English class. And everyone was like, Laura's doing her speech on sex. And I was like, no, I'm not. It's on sex education. But anyway, that was a really good thing to do. And the interesting thing is that in New Zealand and in Australia, I think as well, it's still not consistent what you actually have to be teaching kids. I'm not going to get into detail, but there were definitely differences and or gaps between mine and some of my friends' knowledge based on like where we went to school and what we were taught. But anyway, the main thing in that, and it's very much like the quote from Mean Girls about like if you have sex then you're going to get pregnant and you're going to die. Basically that's, so anyway, there I am at 27 and I'm like, okay, so now we do it and then we get pregnant. So after a few months of that not happening, I went to my doctor to just say like, hey, it's been a few months, we're not pregnant yet, and I wanted to just kind of get the okay from her to start taking supplements in like normal doses, not trying to like hyperdose on anything crazy, to try supplement my fertility based on the studies that I was looking at. And she said that that was fine, that was safe, and so I was like, okay, cool. So that is when I started taking my iron tablet in the afternoon, because I was taking it in the morning with coffee, which inhibits the absorption, which is a bad idea. Added vitamin C to that and added a few other things to that, which I will list here. I was taking that quite religiously for a few months, and then since then been taking it between probably like once a week and 5 times a week. I think that I kind of lost faith after a few months taking it all religiously. I still am supplementing it because it's all still good stuff to be having, but I'm not religious about it anymore. So during this time, I was also having long-ish cycles. I had one where I actually like skipped a cycle, which was really upsetting and frustrating. I wasn't able to capture my ovulation on the basic LH ovulation strips. And so my doctor had also advised that I should get the fancy ones that measure like the 2 hormones. So we started doing that. And as you would see in my video, when I was like freaking out because we got a solid smiley face, it was a while before we actually got that peak fertility showing up on the test. So the flashing smiley face is high fertility, and ideally you'd want to get that for like a couple of days, and then you get the solid smiley face, and it literally just stays on the test because it has like removable little strips, so you can test and then it'll show you, remove that one to the next day, test, it'll show you. So anyway, it stays solid smiley face for 2 days. You can't do another test because it's like, nah, you got it, cool, you're good. So it was probably about 6-7 months in before we got that, and that was really good. I think that maybe there was still a bit of understanding for us around timing for that, because you need the little swimmers to be there like ready for when the egg comes out and pops into the fallopian tube. I say that we had some timing to figure out there. That's kind of an explanation I've come up with because we still haven't gotten pregnant. So I don't know if that's an issue. I don't know, it might be, it might not be, but that's something that we've been trying to refine and look at the different like research studies on when we should be doing that, whatever. So that was what we had there. And once we'd kind of got the ovulation confirmed on that test, but still not gotten pregnant, I think that was when I asked my doctor if there was any other like tests that we could do to see what was going on, and that's when I started doing the day 2 and the day 21 test. So I don't fully understand all of this, but basically what they're wanting to see is on day 2 they're wanting to see decently high estrogen, and then on day 21 they're wanting to see decently high progesterone. So they're just wanting to see that those 2 hormones that kind of change during the cycle are actually kind of doing their thing. And I think that there's a bit of a relationship there where if one doesn't kind of do enough, then it's hard for the other one to do enough. So you need them to both be like doing their thing at their time. So the first month of that, oh no, actually that was before I started taking the supplements. Okay, cool. So that must have been slightly earlier. It was slightly earlier that I did this testing. Estrogen was good, progesterone was not. And so it was then that I looked at the supplements to kind of say like, hey, should I start taking some of these to get my progesterone up? And when I did, my progesterone was getting higher. It took like 2 months before it was up, but then it was, and then we stopped doing that testing. But then since then, it's been another like few months of us not getting pregnant. And so I asked about getting testing for Josh. And so then he went and got his testing done, which is the like sperm in a little test thing, and then you have to like keep it warm and then take it there and then they analyze it, right? So with that, count, which is the main issue that guys actually have, count was good, which is great. Motility or mobility, I can never remember which one it is, but like how much they're either just like kind of moving or how much they're actually doing this was not so good. So it was kind of helpful to have an issue identified, but me immediately, being me, went into research mode and I was like, okay, let's find out what we can be supplementing to try and improve this. And again, I was going for the peer-reviewed high sample studies, and also if they have from that like outcomes as to did these couples actually end up getting pregnant after not being able to get pregnant for a while, all of that. So I will list here all of the stuff that I then had poor Josh taking. It was quite a concoction. I think it became quite a chore for him to be doing. So he was taking that to try to improve sperm health. And the most recent update on that actually came through today, which was a bit of a disappointment because it's actually technically gotten slightly worse. Which might not be anything to do with the supplements because it's only been 2, maybe 3 months? 3 months since he's been on them. And they say it takes 3 to 6 months to really improve sperm health. So I think we're still going to carry on with that trajectory. But yeah, that is where we're at. In terms of any other factors for me, I am not known to have endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or any other kind of issues. However, I think that I would like, you know, even if they're like, okay, we're going to work on this with Josh for sperm health, and they're like, Laura, do you think you're fine, or do you want us to do the extra testing? Yeah, I want the extra testing because I know that there have been a history of fibroids in my family, which again, I don't fully understand, but I think it's basically that you can end up with like a little thingy in the way that's kind of grown there that's benign, but like it just gets in the way of actual things. So it could be blocking things, etc. So I definitely want to have the like ultrasounds done to see that everything is actually able to do what it should be doing. We are still very much not like looking at IVF. It could come to that for sure, but right now I think that we want to understand better what's going on with me because there's still a lot that can be measured there. The other thing that I wanted to say is that I mentioned at the beginning that prior to being on any kind of birth control, my periods were like 7 days of bleeding, 2 days of spotting. Currently my periods are like 1 to 2 days of bleeding and then with a day or 2 of spotting, and that's it. Which there's not a huge amount out there about how long your periods should be, but from what I have seen around, that sounds like it's too light, and I'm not really sure what could be causing that or what that could mean or if that is relevant. I also, gosh, I'm so sorry that I didn't like plan this out and then I'm just like adding stuff and being like, oh, actually this also happened. Oh, actually that also happened. Yeah. Whatever. Brains are disorganized. It be like that sometimes. I also, at the behest, recommendation of our chiropractor, who is amazing. I love her so much. She is the best. Anything she recommends, I'm like, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna see if that works for me. Thank you. She recommended acupuncture for fertility. So I started that, I want to say September, October last year. It's now, I was going to say it's February. It's actually the beginning of March. So it's been like 5 months-ish of that. And that has made my cycle more regular. And it's made me ovulate closer to day 14. So I think that's sort of the ideal cycle is 28 days and you're ovulating day 14. I was sort of like 32, 33 days and ovulating when I did catch it like day 19, 20. After doing the acupuncture, which is basically to help improve blood flow to all of your reproductive organs, my cycle is 29 days and it has been like that consistently since I started, and I've been ovulating around day like 15, 16. So that has been much closer to what we would want. But it still hasn't happened. So that is where we are at. We just have to wait and see. My period is due in like a week. So if I get that, because I'm not pregnant, then I will go in and do that day 2 testing again, just to have an up-to-date version of that. And then that, along with all the rest of our tests, will be packaged up very nicely by my doctor and sent along to a fertility specialist. And then we will start on to a slightly different journey. But that is where we're at the moment. We are wanting to do this in an holistic way as much as possible. We don't want a band-aid fix to this that then allows us to get pregnant once but doesn't solve anything longer term if we wanted to have a second or third kid. We are also, as much as I feel like when I edited my last video, I was like, oh my God, I'm so impatient. I feel like we are quite patient people, and we are quite hardworking people who want to put in the effort to make the good things happen. So we really want to try that. Oh, lastly, my chiropractor did also recommend to me about having small amounts of grass-fed beef. So as someone who has not eaten meat in like 7 years or something, I've started introducing that in the last month, which has been weird. It has been good. I'm like, oh, this is new, this is exciting. But that has been a bit different. But yeah, we are very much the kind of people who want to be doing the food and exercise and sleep and everything else to support our health, and in this instance, our fertility. We do not want to jump straight to IVF. IVF is obviously an awesome option for certain people, and I'm not, I was going to say dogging that, bagging that. Well, I'm not, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just not where our brains are at right now. So let's see what other options there are out there. Yeah, and I hope that if this is something that you think would be of value to you to see and to have support in, please subscribe, please like the video, please comment your experience down below. I would love to hear from you guys, and take care. Bye.